Hello, Internet. My name is John Kulas. I am a 20-year professor of industrial organizational psychology. I'm a 10-year user of R for statistical applications, and for the last 6 or 7 years, I've also been using R to author things like technical reports and academic manuscripts and websites, slides. You're looking at a R authored slide right now. So every week, we used to do this on Fridays. Now we're doing them Tuesday evenings. Every week, I get together with some of my collaborators on projects, and we we work on authoring projects. And so, what we want to do eventually is we want to get a little community together where we can do real-time problem solving of authoring projects that other people are using or trying to create. But what we've been doing for the start of this idea here for the last 26 or so sessions is we've kind of been manufacturing our own little issue. And these issues are just kind of things that strike us in the moment. And so we'll spend most of tonight, I think, unless someone is working on something and they want to drop a question in the chat, we can switch gears. But if that doesn't happen, what we'll do is we'll spend the majority of the early evening tonight, kind of expanding on what we did last week. And what we did last week was we created a Shiny app, a Shiny document, a document that has Shiny elements in it. And what that means is there's some user control over what it is that the content is in that application, in that document. So we're going to expand that a little bit. What we did last week was we focused on getting data from that reactive or kind of interactive document. We got some data out of it. And I think what we're going to try to do this week is we're going to try to see if we can get a picture, a download of a picture from that reactive element. Again, Shiny is not something that I'm an expert at, and I'm learning this kind of on the fly a little bit. It's one of the things that we've internally talked about. These weekly sessions have been good just to help us kind of keep fresh with this stuff and learn new things. So tonight we'll be creating a Shiny document. We'll try to do that probably from scratch. If not from scratch, we'll try to share the code. All of this code is available. There's a link in the YouTube description to a repository, and all of the code is available. And it's the convention we're using is we use the date of the presentation. So today is 5/28, and so it'll be 5_28_24. And then the slides that you're looking at, for example, are an HTML extension, and the scripting that we use to create the slides is a QMD extension. Every week we spend a little bit of time recapping what happened last week, and so let's go ahead and do that.
Well, it seems that fate has taken a hand in the game of Mooseberry, Who's Got the Mooseberry? For Rocky and Bullwinkle and the two spies are all getting ready to sail to the same place, Pottsylvania.
Yeah, because that's the only place in the world to get mooseberries.
But Boris and Natasha, posing as tourists, seem to be carrying coals to Newcastle, for they are taking a mooseberry bush to Pottsylvania. Or are they?
Sorry, Miss O'Brien. You can't take that aspidistra with you.
He's not aspidistra, he's real.
Shh, don't argue with me, Mikushla. Of course he's what he said. Why couldn't we take it?
Regulations. No plants can go abroad. We're on the lookout for a stolen mooseberry bush.
Well, maybe your sister can be plant seeder for us.
But I don't have...
This way.
Boris, what are we going to do?
I'll think of something.
Better hurry, look.
Good thing Diego's not here. That's actually we're gonna be having some duplicate transitions, segues between the intro slide and then what happened last week with the Rocky and Bullwinkle because I lost. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but I lost my original channel that I was pulling those from, and I want to do them sequentially. So we're gonna get to see the whole story about the mooseberry bush and Uncle Chumley here in the next couple of weeks. That's okay. I love the Uncle Chumley storyline. So last week, as I mentioned, we did data downloads from Shiny Apps, and hopefully, I think we're not going to have Katrina or Ian today, but hopefully Diego shows up because he's a lot more adept at the shiny stuff than certainly I am. But Diego and Katrina primarily came up with this little script here, and we're using two different packages. It's a shiny app, so of course we're going to have to use the shiny package. And then there is a table, interactive table that we use, so we're using the DT package as well. This first chunk, I didn't realize it because I was having all kinds of internet issues last week, but I didn't realize that when Diego came up with his data set, he was getting a little clever with the names here. So I don't know what Diego's musical interests are. Actually, if he shows up, maybe we can ask him. But it looks like some of his musical, at least acknowledgement, might be betrayed here in terms of his first names in his small data set. Once we start getting into Shiny, and this is the old scripting, there's going to be, I'm sorry. Wow, that just jumped on me. Once we, I enabled, I enabled something that facilitates navigation of this slide deck, which is the mouse wheel, and I've mentioned that on a few of these different sessions. So I can now use my mouse wheel to navigate. Unfortunately, when we're in one of these scrollable code chunks, it's probably not a good thing to have enabled because we're jumping around quite a bit. The old scripting in terms of Shiny elements, there's a UI object or element, and then there's a server object or element. And so we're using that convention here. So you actually see two primary things that have a lot of information within them. And then at the very bottom of the app, we pull those together. And this is when I say old, this has been the way to structure the scripting for these Shiny apps for probably 12, 13, 14 years or so. And now with Quarto, we actually see that if we would try to integrate this within a broader document, there's an alternative. And so we haven't gone to that alternative yet. I think we will. We're going to spend a couple more weeks on this Shiny stuff. So we'll eventually get there. But we're using the old scripting here for, at least for what we did last week. On the UI element, there's information here for the user interface or the user inputs. And so Diego crafted this, and so one of the things he did was he gave it a title. And if you just scroll to the next page, this is what the app looks like. Now in the slide format that we're using, the Shiny apps aren't fully enabled. And so this is just a static representation. This is actually pulled straight from the script. Every time I run the slide deck, the script runs. And this is what's actually reflected. But the top leftmost element here, download CSV example, you see that is controlled by this line 15 bit of scripting here with the title panel function on it. Now the fluid row contains our primary filter that we decided to use on this small made-up data set, and that was just a slider. And the slider, our name is on line 18, our name as well as the object that we're later going to call up. Age range with a capital R and no space is the object internal to R. That's going to be important. And then age, capital A, space range, capital R. That's what it's going to render like in the document. And then the min and max are saying where to start and where to end that slider. And then we're actually having two sliders on that same scale. And so when you see those values there concatenated with a 30 and 40, those are going to be the starting points that someone who's coming into the app has. So those are our default starting values. And you can see that here again on the app itself. So the age range and then 30 to 40. And I didn't realize it because my bad internet last week, but when Diego and Katrina had crafted this, they intended to have two sliders so we could filter the data from two different locations. So we could filter it from the top, we could filter it from the bottom simultaneously. So that's the slider input. We also had to specify within the UI itself, we wanted to specify the thing that we want to display, and the thing that we want to display here was just simply a table. And then also what we worked quite a bit on, and for a couple of weeks we worked on this, turns out that there are quite a few helper pages out there existing for downloading information off of a Shiny app. And the most common thing to access off of these types of Shiny apps does seem to be the data itself. And so there are quite a few pages out there that help identify the scripting that's going to be most instructive, informative, and helpful when we simply want to download data. And so that download button with a capital B on line 25 here, that function was something that we were really having some issues with using the newer platform, using Quarto. And so I think we'll probably come back to that in a couple of weeks when we try to do a full integration of this information within a Quarto dashboard, and we'll see if that download button is still giving us some issues. What that output table and download button render like, you can see they're not in the sidebar. They're in what's called, from this old scripting, what's called the main panel of the Shiny application itself. They're located here on the right. And so you can see that the DT table, if you're familiar with this format, there is a filterable just with DT itself. You can filter the number of entries. You can search for a first name. You can search for an age, and it's going to filter that table for you. We added the other filterable element, obviously, of a slider input. But then you can see the download CSV button also appearing underneath that table. And so that app seemed to work actually fairly well for our demonstrative purposes last week. In the server bit of code here, and now in the Quarto specification, when we get to it, the server bit of code is just going to be in a different chunk, and that chunk's going to have a different meta field associated with it. I believe the field that we're going to be manipulating once we move to Quarto is context, and so context will make sure that this information has the context of a server. One of the reasons that the Shiny scripting looks so intimidating, I think, and feels so different from scripting of other types of things that we try to do in R. Well, first of all, as we're talking about using R for authoring projects, a lot of Diego and I were just talking about this week. A lot of the things we're learning and the things we're practicing and applying don't really feel necessarily like R. the statistical applications of R, it really feels unique. It feels like we're literally authoring a paper or a manuscript or a tech report or any other prose-based thing. It really feels like we're just using a different type of word processor. Now, these Shiny apps do have more of an R-based feel to them. So they do kind of bring you back to the R scripting that you're more familiar with in terms of statistical applications. And so one of the things that we did here is we created a new object. Now, I'm not sure, again, because certainly not an expert in Shiny, I'm not sure if we needed to make this an object itself, but it made it easier for us to know what's going on within the Shiny app, because if we make the filtered underscore data object, and that object is a function of inputs that we use on the slider, and so those inputs are identified here on line 34 by input $, and then there you see that variable name that we created, age, capital R, range, and that has two values, and those two values are indicated by the square brackets. It makes it easier for us to control and kind of see what's going on with that object, because we can call it up later. And on line 39 here, for example, you see that we do call it up, and we call it up into that table. And that table is reflective of that filtering. Let me mute for a second. Okay, hopefully that's better. So then we get the filtered data object, and you'll see that the open and close parentheses are a little different as well, in terms of how just an object would normally be called out. I believe that's actually necessary. Maybe we'll play, if Diego doesn't show up, maybe we'll play a little bit with the old script and see if that open and close parenthesis is actually necessary or not for the proper rendering of that app. And then on the piece that we were really focused on, and the piece that we spent a couple of weeks, as I said, kind of trying to figure out how to specify this, was using this download handler function. And so the download handler is pushing to an object. That object is called download data. And again, sorry, I keep jumping around. That download data is linked to this line 25 variable that we create on the user side of things. And so the really kind of important elements here of the download handler and downloading the data itself has to do with the content aspect, and the content is what we want to be downloaded. And so again, there we kind of used our level of comfort with R to create an object off of that slider that we have, and then we're going to call up that object once we ask for the write.csv command. So the content is just asking for what's being displayed currently that's reflective of the slider, and we'll go ahead and see if we can download it. Now, one of the things we didn't play with last week, and it just strikes me now that it might be kind of informative as we are trying to get better at Shiny ourselves and understanding how all these different elements are linked, is I did mention that the DT package itself and the DT table does built in have a filterable function. And that filterable function, I'm going to meaningfully now advance the slides. But again, that's identified here where we say show, in this case 10 is a default value, show 10 entries. There aren't 10 to show here. That's why there's less than 10 displayed. But we can also search. Now, those features of a DT table are neat, but they're not affecting the underlying data at all. So the data is still there, even though what we're asking to be displayed is going to be it's going to be a subset of that larger data set. And now this isn't a huge data set. There's only, if we were to count, I don't know, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10. There's 10 British rockers here that are actually identified. But if we think about our filtered data object isn't going to be impacted by our use of the DT table in the manner in which the DT table is intended to be used outside of these Shiny applications. It's meant to be used just as kind of a not fully interactive in terms of impacting the data itself, but just interactive in the sense of what is displayed. So we can, what looks like, filter our data, but the way that this is scripted, that because we're creating this filtered data object on line 33, and that filtered data object is only a function of the logic displayed here on line 34, then no matter what our DT object looks like, if we filter through DT, I should still be able to download the full data set. And so I don't know if I'm explaining this clearly or not. It makes sense to me. I wish someone else was here that could give me some feedback on that. But I think we're going to play with that a little bit, especially if no one else shows up and it's just me kind of stumbling around in the dark here with this stuff. I think we'll test it and make sure that our coding is working in the manner in which we expected it to work. So we'll play with using the slider input to filter data with the expectation that my downloaded data is going to reflect what is filtered with the slider, as opposed to leaving the slider alone and then filtering with the DT package and seeing, even though what's displayed may be smaller, our expectation is that what's downloaded is still going to be the whole set of information, the entire data set. Okay. If this was class, this would be the point at where I almost did it. I haven't now taught for about 2 years, but I almost said any questions. And there's no one here, but that's the point at which I would normally ask, are there any questions? There are a couple people here. I'm assuming one is my brother. And so, brother out there, I haven't told you this, but my computer is starting to act really slow. So it may be time for a new computer, just to put kind of in the back of your mind there. So today what we're going to do, and over the course of the next couple of weeks, and if Diego doesn't show up, we're probably not going to get too far with the downloading the figure, because it's going to be me fumbling around quite a bit. But we're going to spend the next few weeks getting to know Shiny a lot better, I think, or that's the goal anyway. I think allergies are really getting me. I don't know what it is about my throat, but I got something going on here. So last week we did cover data, and we're going to spend a little more time on that today, just to test that filtering aspect that I just as we're going through the slides just struck me as being curious. And then today, hopefully a little bit, but then into the next couple of weeks as well, we'll see if we can expand having control over the data that's downloaded to see if we can also download figures. Yikes. So we'll see if we can download figures, like the nice kind of Loch Ness Monster looking blue, red, and green graph here on the right. And then we'll go to, I think we'll probably expand that to full data reports. And so ultimately the end use of this that most people are probably going to want to strive toward is having a Shiny app or dashboard with Shiny elements in it that the user can control, and then the user can hit a button, and that button reflects the content that's currently being displayed within the Shiny app, and that content is reflective of choices that the user has made in terms of filtering. And so that's kind of where we're headed with this. And then I think what we'll do after we get the figures figured out and then get the broader report figured out, I think what we'll probably do is we'll take all this information and transfer it over to Quarto format, the new kind of authoring format. Now the old scripting works just fine, so we could just literally copy and paste into a Quarto document, but there are accommodations that have explicitly and consciously been made to allow for different types of scripting within Quarto, and I think that's what we're going to want to try to do. And again, even if it seems like kind of a futile exercise or unnecessary, because Quarto does accommodate the old scripting structure, It's a fantastic exercise to help learn this stuff deeper. And so, um, we, so we'll probably do that as long as we don't spend the next 5 weeks trying to get figures and reports. We kind of saw that happen with APA manuscripts. I thought it'd be a week, maybe 2 weeks, and I think that ended up being 5 full sessions. I still need to cut that up. So I'm going to cut that up into a more kind of digestible form that people can take and hopefully use if they want to generate a fully APA formatted manuscript. That's going to be most useful for students whose whose professors want an APA formatted paper, or for researchers who are submitting research to a journal and the journal wants APA format. Okay, then we have our session info there. So let's actually go ahead and take a look at what we made last week, because we'll probably base our figure attempt off of what was actually done last week. But I also want to test out that DT table filter and see if that doesn't affect our download, which my expectation is that it won't. Now you see in the lower right here, you see my file environment, and you see that it's getting cluttered. This is our LiveStream files. And I mentioned earlier that the convention for these slides is the date, and then QMD is the code, and HTML is the rendered document itself. But we also had, I think we put in here, it's getting tough to find because it's getting so heavily populated. But I think I put in here the script that we had from what we were playing around with last week as well. Here we go. Shiny download data, May 22nd. That sounds about right. So that'd be the day after the session last week. And here it is. This is exactly the same information that is presented on slide 3, 4, 5, slide 5 of the deck. And you can see the color is just a little different. And then there's annotations that we put in for the slide deck. But it's the same information, so you could grab this script from that code if you're interested in running it. We'll go ahead and run it, and hopefully it works. There we go. And so again, the slider input, I'm gonna change just so we can see how this works here. I'm gonna change that default start value from instead of having it not grabbing the entire data set, it's probably a better idea, as long as it's a small data set like this, to have it by default express all of the data. And so I'm going to change that from 30 to 40 to 30 to 45 just as the starting default value. And then you can see there's much more information presented here. If we wanted to filter it down to only people under 43, I guess it would be here, we could go 30 to 42. There's no 30-year-olds here, so if we're probably not gonna. Did we chop someone there? Looks like we did chop someone. Is this not working correctly? I might have to check this app here and our logic, because it looks to me like I have 7 people 30 to 42. Oh, so the table, it's just the HTML that we're seeing. So I'm sorry, I'm having a seizure here, I guess, while we're talking. I shouldn't say that, but I was hallucinating. So it wasn't that the table was shrinking, it was just that the HTML was kind of jumping around a little bit. So we still have 7, we still have 7, still have 7, and then finally when we get to 39, we cut off someone that apparently was 38 years old. So it looks like our youngest musician here is probably 38. Yeah, and it's George. Okay. So here we have everybody. If I filter it to, let's say, people let's say only 30-year-olds, and we download that data. It's going to ask me where I want to put it, and that file is already existing, so I just overwrote it. I think I put it on my desktop, so we'll take a look here. Did I not put it on my desktop? Maybe I didn't. Let me try to download that again. Oh, I put it in my downloads. Okay. Well, we can download it again. I'll put it on my desktop. And I will look for it. See, the computer's really slow. Sorry about that. And there it is. Data 2024, 5/28 at 6:30 Central Time. Oops. Hit the wrong one. And you see there it pops up ID, name, age, and it's George and Charlie. George and Charlie here. I'm not sure why the ID is showing up twice. I think that's a function of DT. That's the function of the type of table that we asked for, the DT. And so I believe that's why it's showing up. Those are index numbers, and they're not gonna reset when we filter. If we asked for, let's say, just 40-year-olds, we're gonna have 8 people. Download, we'll just override. And if we look at that, we see it's now doing what we want. So we got rid of number 3 and we got rid of number 7. So I forget who that was, but those were the 30-year-olds. And so the download data is working exactly like we want it to on the slider input. So that's super cool. The thing I was curious about was, let's go back and do a full range of individuals with our slider input here. And I'm just going to use the default features of the DT table package. And so I could just, what if I just say R? If I just look for people with the letter R in their name, I see that there's 5 of them. And so the curiosity here is, in our scripting, if you recall, in the script, it's going to be a different number than it is in the slides, but in the script, we have our logic displayed on line 32 here. And so on line 32, we actually have the filter data is going to be between whatever the first age range value is and the second age range value. So we're filtering based on that. So the curiosity that I have, and I think we can probably all guess what the answer is going to be, but the curiosity is even though only 5 people are being presented here because of the filtering that I did within the default DT table, only give me people with the letter R in their name. The logic that we use in the scripting doesn't care about that. So the logic, we haven't done any filtering on the slider at this point. So my expectation is, even though only 5 people are being presented, if we were to download this file, I should have the full data set. And so let's do that. Override again. Yep, we'll replace it. And then we'll go ahead and pull it up. Yeah, good. Okay. Neat. So maybe something that you could foresee a user being kind of confused about that. So that might be something that we add to the app. We could actually add a little asterisk or something and say, hey, if the data that you want to download is reflective of the information that's displayed, make sure that the information that's displayed is filtered by the slider and not by, is by the slider. Oh, it didn't like Sorry, I stopped the app accidentally. And I guess I did that by highlighting line 32. I've actually never seen that happen before. But again, I don't deal with shiny apps all that frequently. So we'd have to put a little caveat here for users of this app and say, you know, if you filter it using the DT package or the filterable fields, um, even though that information I don't know, does anyone have P? I guess there's two P's. Um, Even if the information looks like it's being filtered, it is for your display, but that's not going to be reflected in the download itself. Okay, cool. I almost asked if there's any questions again. So let's actually go ahead and see if we can get a picture on this app. Now, picture, I think what we want to do is probably the easiest thing to do would be maybe a histogram, since we only have one quantitative variable in here, one numerical variable. I think all we can really do is ask for a histogram of age. Now, I think it's a good idea. Just generally, as we're authoring this type of any type of project. Let's see if I can stop this from. There we go. I just needed my prompt back in my console. It's a good idea to make sure that the thing that you're trying to do works outside of the app or works outside of the document. So I think we'll just see if we can get a histogram straight on the data that we actually have. And the data that we actually have should be in my environment, but it's not. So I'm going to actually go ahead and reload that. And there we go. There's data. And so if we ask for, in the lower left here, I'm just going to ask for a histogram of age within that data object. Oops. I missed I have a little desk thing right in front of exactly that spot.
Hey, hello.
Oh, there you go. I didn't get to play the goat. I'm, oh, there we go.
Hey, what's up?
That's better. You see I'm representing tonight?
Oh, the singers.
No, my shirt.
Wait.
No, my shirt, not the
Oh,
cover.
MSU. Oh, that's good. Katrina told me yesterday that there's like a book club going on during the summer at MSU. That's neat. They're reading the hypothesis of the happiness hypothesis. And I'm
So
like, well, if it's an entire book, isn't that more like a theory?
Yeah, good point. But my immediate reaction to that is Dr. Dan leaves, and then they think they have enough spare time then to do some like just pleasure reading. I don't think that would take. I don't think
So
that would happen if Dr.
reading with Dr. Dan will be unpleasurable reading.
Well, no, it's just he wasn't. I was told that he gave you guys lots of readings, so I was just thinking that maybe the load isn't quite as heavy anymore, so you can do some reading for pleasure. I don't know. I told you I don't do that anymore. I used to do that a lot, but I should probably get back into it.
Assign a ton of readings to students.
No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. No, I meant I don't read for pleasure anymore. Hardly. I used to.
Oh.
I know we've talked about books and the genre that we like, but I haven't read for a long time.
I have a ton of books that I just start but I never finish. It's like video games. I just have a ton of video games that I never played. Same with books. I just start but then get distracted and then I forgot what the book was about and I never come back to it.
Really? Huh. I don't think that. Well, I guess I don't know, but that's very different from my experience with books. I have to finish them. Like if I started, I have to finish it. I want to know the story. But do you read so you read multiple ones at the same time though? Like in
Yeah,
parallel? Okay, that's probably it. Because I always do it in serial.
you should
So
probably do that.
yeah, I don't know. Well, and especially so if if you like the fantasy genre stuff, there's so many. They go in sequence, right? So it's trilogies or it's
Yeah,
like C.S.
series.
Lewis is what, five or yeah. So you have to read those in series. But anyway, all right, a little bit off topic, I suppose, but maybe more interesting. So Diego, I'm just gonna I think use the app that you and Katrina primarily came up with last week. I spent 40 minutes here just deconstructing it, and I don't know if you saw one of the things I was curious about was because the DT table you can filter right using this. I just wanted to make sure that our logic was separate from this type of filtering when we download, and it was, so it worked out fine. So if we downloaded off of this, we would still get all 10 British rockers.
Oh,
So
that's good. No, you have to select. You have to select the range. That's good.
yeah, because and so the point I guess that we were making with that is that that would be something that you would need to communicate to the end user of the app that even though it looks like you're filtering, that's like a different way to filter. It's not the way we chose to filter. So we, I guess it's one of the downsides maybe of having that displayed in a DT table. So we could just display it in a different table. It doesn't need to be a DT table. But those DT tables are so neat. I think that is the way to go about doing it. So what I was going to do next is I was going to add just probably a histogram. This little guy on the, histograms. They always end up looking like somebody's giving you the middle finger, don't they? Like,
Yeah, because it's a
uh,
normal distribution.
yeah, I don't know how normal that looks, but it does look like it looks like somebody's going like, I'm not going to give the finger, but it's like they're holding two fingers up here and then they're doing the middle finger with the other hand. So double fingered. Um, so I was gonna add this histogram, and so Diego, I was kind of talking you and Katrina up a little bit because you guys are a lot better at shiny stuff than I am. This is not an environment that I'm very comfortable with, but maybe you can kind of direct me in terms of where we need to go to add just this simple picture to the app that we have. Now, if we, oops, I got to run it again. Sorry. Um, I think where we want to add it is maybe, should we try to put it in the sidebar panel because there's more room? Or
Yeah.
because this isn't in the dashboard, would it just, we should be able to put it on the main panel as well, right? And it would just go underneath the table, or we could put it on top of the table, I guess.
Oh, like background.
Uh, well, I I was just thinking stacking. So I think it's just the way I have it. If I put it on line 22 here, it should just stack on top of this DT table, right? So we'll have a histogram on top of the show 10 entries here.
Oh, I see.
That's all I was saying. I was wondering if we could put it in the sidebar panel, but since that's narrower, we might have some issues with that, I guess. So let's try putting it on top here. And so if you want to tell me what to do, you can. Otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of live Google some stuff here. I'm gonna go histogram histogram shiny, and I think one of the default shiny. Let's actually take a look at this because I think one of the default shiny programs is that old faithful histogram. So we can maybe just copy that code. I'm gonna put this on my desktop because I don't actually want to create one. I just want to see what we have here. And yeah, so we actually do have a histogram specified. So they're doing plot output dist plot. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to put that in our main panel. It looks like we probably need a comma, right, Diego? I'm guessing at the end of line 22 here.
Um,
I'm going to blow this
yeah.
up a little bit.
No, I can see it fine. Yeah, you do need a comma.
Okay. I'm going to blow it up just a tiny little bit. So on line 22, put a comma there after dist plot, and then we have on the server side, we have output dist plot, render plot, bins. We shouldn't need to do anything with bins. Boy, there's a lot here, isn't there? There's actually more than I thought there would be. So I'm just going to copy this. We'll paste it in, and we'll get rid of the stuff that we don't think we need. So again, that's on the server side. We have a lot of stacked information. I'm going to put my cursor next to the end parenthesis here on line 49 to see where the start is, and it starts here. You can see on line 42. One of the reasons I like RStudio. I was talking to Alicia this morning. She might be watching as well. We were talking about one of the nice things about authoring within RStudio is if I say the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, or whatever the heck that's supposed to be. If I love the cheats, so if I want to do double quotes, right, you don't have to do it at the beginning and the end. You can just highlight the whole thing. Same thing for parentheses, and that works for regular parentheses. It works for square parentheses. It works for curly brackets. It works for ticks. So a tick is something that we use for inline code. I love that aspect of the editor. So anyway, I'm not sure why I went off on that little tangent, but we don't have an input bins on our UI side of it, so I don't think we need that. I'm just going to take that out. Uh-oh, that wasn't a good sounding. X is going to be...
Did you add the histogram on the where it says define UI on the UI object, like on below main panel?
I put it on line 22 here. I just called up the plot output. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll have to call it dist plot. And here again, yeah, is where the dist plot is referenced. So the render, we're going to want to render filtered data, right? So this is the thing that we're going to have to play with a little bit, I think, Diego. This is because it's not, we want the histogram of one element of the filtered data, and that's the filtered data age. And so I wonder if we should use, does the $ convention work? I guess we'll try it, right?
Yeah.
Because they were using square brackets, and I'm not exactly sure why. The thing that concerns me a little bit is we had the open and close parentheses after the filtered data object in this app before, and I know that again, it's a shiny thing. That seemed to be important, whereas normally within R that wouldn't be important. So we'll try that, and then the histogram itself. I don't know why. I don't think we need this at all, do we?
X filtered data.
I
don't think you.
Yeah,
also, we could also use just a ggplot, and we specify X as age. so we don't have to use the dollar sign.
Okay. Sorry, I was typing, not fully listening. But um, but we'll see if this works, and then if it doesn't work, we'll come back to that. This to me looks okay, right?
Yeah.
The rendered plot is just a histogram, and the histogram is of age and filtered. This does worry me a little bit, like how we have it specified. We'll keep the labels. It isn't appropriate for us, but we'll keep them anyway. Yeah, it didn't like something.
Yeah, I guess
Wonder-
we could use maybe ggplot, and we just put x equals age.
Okay. Um. I'm gonna load it up here then too. So ggplot, the data object is first, right? If I'm remembering. So,
Yeah, it would be filtered data.
do we need AES, do you think? Or we can just go x equals age?
No, yeah, AES. And then it would be age equal, no, x equals age. And then we would use hist, right?
Yeah. I think that's right. We'll try it outside of the app. See if it just works on our... I have the data object loaded. Oops. Doggone it.
Try putting it in with parentheses.
Well, I haven't loaded the filter data object because that's only going to be reflective of... It's not geom hist. It's something... Is it histogram? I think it might be histogram.
Let me check.
Yeah, there we go. It's histogram. That's okay. It just ran. So yeah, we'll try data filtered and see what or filtered data. Making all kinds of rookie mistakes tonight. Let's see what happens with that. She don't like it. Let's look up, Diego, do you want to look up the code specification of a ggplot object just in Shiny?
Yeah, let
generally?
me check it out.
Well, yeah, let's see how it's structured. Oh, there it is. It is that parenthesis, man.
It worked?
Yeah. Yeah, it works
so
fine.
it treats it like a function.
Is that why the parentheses are necessary?
Yeah.
This is what I'm curious about. Okay.
That's how I have it too.
Diego, you're so smart. Because the whole thing is wrapped in a function command. So that's why, right?
Yeah, it treats it like it's a function.
Okay. Okay. Maybe that's why that's one of the things that just I'm not used to. So, okay, so we got our app. We got our app that's not reflective. You know what? Because this is overwriting everything, I think I'm gonna try to put this in that side panel and see what happens. See if it's a little easier to see. We'll put it under the slider input. Yeah, hopefully it'll render there. kind of smaller. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, it's easier to see, right?
Yeah.
Woo. Okay. Well, we could play with that and make it fancier, I guess, if we wanted to. But what we were gonna do tonight, Diego, is we were gonna try to amend, or maybe we just keep building on this and try to have another download. And that other download is reflective not of the data, but of the graph. So we want to see if we can get like a PNG or a PDF or
Oh, with the
whatever.
graph?
Yeah. I spent a little time this morning looking, and people get a little elaborate with that scripting. But the stuff I was seeing was also from like the reason at the beginning of this stream I said this scripting has been used for 11, 12, 13 years. The stuff I was seeing was 11, 12, 13 years old, which is why I felt comfortable saying that the scripting is that old. Okay, so we're gonna need, well, the download button itself is gonna be easy enough. We can add a second download button here on the UI, and we'll say download plot. And normally, I don't think, Diego, you and I wouldn't do this by convention, but because we're using code that someone else has written, I'm going to use that capital P convention for our object. I know we don't like to, if it's not necessary, we don't like to mix the upper and lower case, but we can do it here. And then we'll just have the label be download histogram. Now, we should be able to still run the app, and our expectation is we have two different download buttons. You know what? Let's put this underneath the histogram, so we keep those download buttons separate. And I think it should still run. It's just that if we click it, it won't. It's got nothing to download because we haven't called it out in the server. There we go. So we got a histogram on the left. It says I can, but I don't know what the heck it's gonna down. Let's see what it does.
Think it's just gonna be a
Empty file.
because you didn't. Yeah. Actually, I'm curious now too.
Yeah, it's 4 kilobytes. It is a empty, almost empty version of the app. That's curious.
Just HTML.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if we can inspect this and see what's on it. Where the heck? I gotta open it in Chrome, I think. I don't know where the inspect button is. What the heck? I think I have Inspector Gadget on here. I can Inspector Gadget. I mean Selector Gadget. I should be able to. Well, that's not working either. This isn't going all that well. Is it a developer tool? There we go. Yeah, it's got not much. Yeah, there should be it's weird what was actually. Anyway, we don't need to do this, but I'm curious, like you were. Okay, so let's see if we can. So we got the user interface looking pretty much like we want it. We got the histogram that's reflecting our slider input. We got the table on the right that's doing the same. We got a download of the data that works fine because we linked to it in our server specification. We don't yet have the picture itself linked, So it sounds like Diego's doing a little searching. I'm going to do a little searching here as well and see.
Oh, I'm actually just doing on the server, adding it to the server now. The
Oh, you
another
already have.
handler.
So we'll add a second handler chunk. It's kind of what you're
Um,
thinking.
yeah, and instead of using write.csv, I'm guessing render. Render, to render PDF.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I'm
And
not
then
sure
we,
if it'll work.
yeah. I mean, that's the point of doing this. Yeah, 'cause we don't know. Um, so I can also, let me see here. I'm going to put it in with this other download handler. I'll change the comment to plural. Handlers. And then try it here. So now the download data, we want to link that back to the object that we created in our UI. And what we created in our UI, we call download plot. So I'm going to copy download plot, put it in here. And this is starting to get a little busy, so I'm going to actually make another note to myself here. Copied one that works. And actually we'll put it. I like these inline comments, but this is going to be a longer comment, so I think we'll just put it on its own line. Copied from above. That works. Want to download image. And then when I was in grad school, I got in the habit of always dating these annotations. It's less important now that we're doing everything in GitHub, because GitHub will already put a timestamp as long as we're committing and pushing. But I think it's still good practice to timestamp what you're doing. So we have a download plot. It's going to be a download handler. We still want a file name associated with it. I think we're going to try to do either a PNG or probably a PDF. I think a PDF we might find more support for PDF types, but it depends on what you're finding there when you're saying, what are we going to do? We're going to render, you say, instead of write CSV?
That's what I'm guessing.
Okay. Because there's also, Diego, what if we did this? You know how there's the dev off stuff that you can do with images? At the top we can do like PNG, and then at the bottom we go dev off. And everything.
So the same but with you can do that with PDF too.
Well, yeah, you can do that. You can, but I'm wondering, what if we saved our plot as an object? Oh, it is already an object. What if can we just have dist plot? What if we just did dist plot in here? That can't be that easy.
No, you have to put the. I think there you have to put like GG, not the GG. Yeah, the GG plot.
So maybe we know this works. So maybe just repeat this. This is bad scripting, by the way. Hopefully, no one's watching this, so that's okay. We want to get more elegant than this, but I think we just try to see if this works. And man, I haven't used that structure for a long time, so I'm going to do a quick Google here. I'll show what I'm doing. PNG download R. Oh, wonderful. That's not what we wanted. Crying out loud. This is a base R function, I know. There we go. This is what we want. Download with R. And download file. I just want the dev off thing. I know I used that many times, but a long time ago. There it is, dev off. Oh, PNG, and then the thing you want.
Well, you would just put file, like the handler.
That makes sense. Do you think I does that need to be like curly brackets? Remember, this is within a function.
I'm not sure.
You just try it.
Yeah.
There's like no chance this is gonna work. Okay.
Probably make another HTML.
Probably. I mean that's fine. We got a PNG. I don't think that's the way we want to structure it. I mean, it's close. It is we got the content right. I'm sorry, not the
Well,
content. What's
do we have it on the file name? Do we also have PNG?
I put it on there, yeah. On line 56 here. And that's why it is giving us it is pulling up automatically a PNG save as type. But it's not our specifications on lines 59 through 61, those are not that's not what we want for content. So we just need a different content specification. We're a little over time, but we're really close. So I wouldn't mind. Do you got a little time to?
I think you need to use print. I just googled. Use print in the ggplot and like print and inside the parentheses the ggplot. No, not there. You can keep those dev off.
But I don't think we need it, do we?
Yeah, we do.
We do. PNG, what did I say? File.
Yep.
And dev off. And then you want print around this?
Yep.
Okay. It still looks hokey to me. Like I don't try it. Hey, Diego, you're a genius. You should get like a PhD or something.
I know, right? Hey, Danny.
Hello, Danny.
And Mealy.
And Mealy. Hello, both. All right, so let's try this middle finger here and see if this works. This will be the real test. Now it should, because we're pulling up from the filtered data. I wonder next week, I wonder if maybe we should see if we can script that a little. Yay, that's awesome. Diego, I'm loving this. I mean, that wasn't that difficult, actually, to get both the histogram, the picture that we have, and then the data, too. That's pretty cool. The other thing I'd like to learn is how to upload data, I guess, but that can be week 5 on this if we do 5 weeks.
It's definitely possible because I did it with that other app. The one with Brandon. And let me check. Let me actually look it up. I think it was app 2.
I don't know where the heck
It was
you guys went.
Yeah, file input, it would be on the UI. And then on the
UI.
server.
You got so many things open. On the UI, there's a file input option on the UI. That's easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the sidebar panel, you would put file input.
Well, before we get too far with that, Diego, did you? This is what I was planning on doing for the next couple of weeks. So we crossed off data last week. We crossed off figure this week. By the way, look at this kind of cool document that I stumbled across. I literally restarted my internet and then found this page and quickly added a hyperlink to the slides, republished the slides, and didn't get a great chance to look at this. But I found this like literally 7 minutes before we started tonight. But it looks like it's actually maybe helpful for some of the stuff we're trying to do here. So I put a hyperlink in there. But we got the figures figured out. Diego has already done reports, but I was thinking we might try next week or within the next couple of weeks to do a full report. Now, what you did was parameterized reports that were individualized based on rows of data. We should be able to take that and also do it maybe reflective of what's being displayed on the dash on the app itself. I don't know. I think that's a level that's kind of like level 10. I think I started tonight at level 2 and I feel pretty good, so I think I'm at level 3 now. Diego, you're probably at level 8 or 9. But
Nah.
so
So
I was
and then the end game here would be to make one of these apps work in a Quarto document.
well, so tell me what you think. So I was thinking if we spend multiple weeks doing this kind of stuff, trying to get the dashboards to download something that's reflective of what the user is filtering, I was thinking since we were able to get it using the old scripting format, it might also be helpful. I think it was before you came on, I was mentioning how that exercise might be helpful just to help me reinforce what's going on in the Shiny scripting. If I can extract the elements from the old scripting structure and put them into the Quarto specification, that now instead of the UI and the server and then bringing them together at the bottom, it's actually advocating or accommodating UI information being in a UI chunk and server information being in a chunk that's specified with that meta field of context server. So it's just a little tiny bit different, but the scripting is quite a bit different because what we actually see is all of the fluid page disappears. So, you know, that's one thing we struggled with the first week we looked at this was we didn't have the fluid page command. All of this function stuff disappears. So it's a little bit different. The content within it should mostly be the same. For example, the logic that we applied on line 35, that's not going to change. But some of the structuring in terms of creating this object and command functions like reactive might change, or in terms of the layering, they might change. I don't know. So I was thinking that, yeah, it might be at the very end of this, like as the last thing that we do. If the next thing we do is to do a report, then the last thing we do is maybe take the information that we have and try to port it over to Quarto. And right now, we don't have a dashboard right now. We just have a document. So the other thing we would do, porting it over to Quarto, is we'd also force it not just in a general accommodating HTML file, but we would try to force it into dashboard format. That's constrained in terms of the viewer panel, which is it's just HTML, but it's HTML that's displayed only in that viewer panel, as opposed to what we have.
Cool.
It's scrollable. You could scroll down. What do you think about that?
So it would be like the dashboard would be on a Quarto document, and it won't be like online. Like anyone can access it if they have the
Oh,
link.
we could. I mean, we can publish it. Yeah, we could publish what we have here. I mean, I got it all linked. This on this computer, I'm linked to. I don't think we want to do it on book. What the heck is going on? It's actually okay. We'd have to play with that a little bit. It's not linking to the thing that it should be linking to. I have no idea why it's calling up a. Oh, it's probably because the last time I tried to publish a Shiny app, it was probably on April 12th, I'm guessing. Anyway, the stupid thing is stuck now, so I don't think I can get out. Oh, there we go.
Oh, so you could publish this on your website? On
I can't publish it on my site, on my website, without setting up a Shiny server locally.
um,
But Posit they give you a ton of space. If you want to host something on their site that does have a Shiny server on it, then you can do that. And we've done that. We did that with the Pink Panther Shiny app that we created. I don't know if you were here for that one or not, but we did Shiny apps before. We just haven't done these downloads. The new thing that we're doing now is these downloads, which I think are pretty neat. But anyway, what do you think about that for the next few weeks in terms of we got the data figured out, we got the figure, and I think we could get a little more fancy with how we scripted that. I mean, it works fine, so I guess why mess with it? But I don't think it's the most elegant. It's fantastic because we just did it off the top of our heads, so I think that's great. But I don't think it's the most elegant way to do this because I guess the reason I'm saying that is we have this ggplot command twice, right? So we got it on line 71 and we got it on line 60.
oh yeah,
So that
you can remove it from line 60 and it'll still work, I think.
you think just PNG file and then dev off?
I think so.
I think there needs to be something in me because you think the file is going to have that effect. I don't know. Whoop. Whoa. We lost a whole bunch there. Oh, you know what it is? Shiny, for some reason, doesn't like it when you highlight these lines the way that I do. I don't like that red button. But I like to just hit outside the number there and it highlights the whole line. But Shiny seems to really hate that. It's been getting hung up when I do that. Okay, so I took it out. I should have cut it. I think I just deleted it. So if it doesn't work, we're going to have to... Oh. If it doesn't work, we're going to have to reconstruct what we have. Okay, there's our app. See if we can download it. Now, if this works, I'm going to be really befuddled because yeah, okay. I feel better about that. So before we drop, I'm going to try to add that. What was it? Just print, right? Print wrapped around this?
Yeah.
And then I'll actually probably push this. So if you want to do anything with it, you can.
So I'm just Googling how to avoid using the duplicate ggplots. Apparently you have to convert into a reactive object. So kind of like what Katrina did. I think.
Well, maybe kind of like this week, I spent a little more time than usual. Kind of like this week, I spent a little more time than usual recap. Frankly, I did it because you weren't here, and I was afraid to try this by myself. But I spent more time kind of going over and relearning what we did last week. Maybe next week we can do that. See if we can make it a little more efficient. I'm happy with it just because it's working. Um, but yeah, it does make sense that maybe we try to make that a little more efficient. But you're okay with the general plan, Diego, of maybe doing a report or try it, and it wouldn't be much, right? We would just add a little scripting to this. I imagine we're gonna have a download handler that runs probably an RMD, right? That
Um,
RMD is gonna grab whatever's currently being displayed.
yeah, that's how I did it. That's the one I created. Um,
Like
it
source
was
it RMD, or if we wanted to do a QMD now, I guess we could.
and yeah, we would use what was it called? Render. It was like from R Markdown. That's the package, and then the render function, and inside there you just call the RMD.
Okay, sweet. I think we try that next week, and then we move over to Quarto, and then we come up with some awesome dashboards and sell to people and become millionaires. And then Millie can retire early. Millie never has to work.
That would be great.
Okay.
I mean, Millie can work a little bit. She's still young. I'm the one who wants to not have to do it.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, sweet. Thanks for your help tonight. The Friday. See you Friday, right?
Yep. See you Friday.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Bye.
See ya.